Hi, today we're going to start a series of videos that is going to really cover some of the basics of loudspeaker setup and placement, and it's going to be heavily driven by your input and questions that you have. On our forums, under the What's New section, you'll see a thread that I started a few days ago that asks for input on what questions do you want answered. Doesn't matter if you think that they're stupid or simple questions. We really want to cover off topics that you're interested in or that you want to gain a greater knowledge into. Today we're going to start with some basics of bookshelves and center channels. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they put a bookshelf or a center channel into a cabinet or actually on a shelf is that they bury them in the cabinet. A lot of times this is for aesthetic reasons, but acoustically it's pretty much one of the worst things that you can do. What will happen with the speaker, even an inch or two behind the front edge of the shelf, will create reflections that will muffle the sound and destroy the image. You'll get a very colored sound quality from your center channel or your bookshelf speaker. What you want to do is make sure that the speaker is sitting flush as possible, or proud of the front edge of the shelf in the cabinet. This will give you far better acoustic performance. Now, in a previous video we talked about port plugs. When you've got a bookshelf speaker like this M3 that has a rear port, you're going to get bass loading from the cabinet volume behind the actual loudspeaker cabinet. If you think about it, it's the space in between the shelves is actually acting as another cabinet that interacts with the port on the back of the speaker. So in that case, you can either experiment with stuffing something in the port or purchasing a set of our port plugs, which will give you much smoother bass response in this position. Now, one of the questions that was asked by one of our forum members was about height when you're positioning a bookshelf speaker or a center channel on a shelf. We tend to want loudspeakers to be at ear level, and that's always going to be the ideal. However, in many cases that's not practical for the cabinet or shelving that you have, and in the case of center channels, that would probably put the speaker right in the center of your line of sight to your television. Obviously that's no good. Now, if you need to make a compromise and move the speaker above or below ear level, in my experience, moving the speaker above typical ear level will result in a more natural soundstage and image compared to putting the speaker lower down. Part of this has to do with now the fact that the speaker is going to be reflecting and have some absorption from the furniture and other materials that are in your room that are typically lower down in level and closer to the floor. So that's one thing. If you can, try and get the speakers, if not at ear level, slightly above ear level. That also applies for center channels. The convention for center channels is to typically put them in the cabinet that's below the screen because the cabinet is holding the television set. But if you have the opportunity and a cabinet that has shelving above your television screen, try putting the center up there. You may be surprised to find out that there's quite an improvement in sound quality by doing that. Now, one of the other things that I want to mention is the actual center channel setup itself. In the context of a full home theater system, ideally set the front left and right speakers up first as a stereo pair. Get them positioned, get them sounding the way that you want, and then integrate the center channel into the system. Many times what will happen is that the center channel will actually fill out the center image between the left and right speakers. That's technically what it's supposed to do. So by getting your front main speakers the way that you want them sounding, it's a lot easier then to integrate the center channel into that. One other thing, I'm not a big fan of automatic setup systems and room correction systems that are found in many home theater receivers. If, though, you're going to use one of those auto setups, go back and actually try setting the level for the center channel 1 or 2 dB lower than what the auto correction system has given you. what I normally find is that center channel levels are set far too high relative to the front, left, and rights, which makes the center channel stick out audibly, so that it sounds like it's more forward of the left and right sound signals, which is not what you want. You want sort of an arc of immersive sound that blends also with the image that you're seeing on the screen. So there's a few simple things that you can try in the setup of your system. As I said, we'll be doing more in future videos. Thank you very much.